I'm Paulie.
I'm GP, and
And
this is the happy class. You brought up another topic, which is probably a little closer to happiness. You were comparing your locale to a recent survey that you and I got a copy of, the
oh
Happiest Cities
yeah,
in America survey, done by, I believe it's Wallet Hub. I can't remember the source. The source is interested is part of the topic, but um, the winner in the and winner is a really interesting word for this. The winner
mm,
was Fremont, California, which happens to be across the bay, almost straight across the bay from where I live, the San Francisco Bay, which means it's about, I don't know, 15 miles away. And if you live on my side of the bay where all the snobs live, okay, we 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 try to avoid driving on the freeway through Fremont because I mean, why would you go there, right? And yet, this survey, like it or not, and there's lots of things not to like about it, is measuring life longevity, acres of parkland per person, and all of these data points, which are
yeah,
dubious. But um, it kind of also opens up a conversation on what how do you define happiness in a crowd? I mean, a population, are they
yeah,
really happy or not? And the other thing is maybe they're happier because for the same if they want the same size house here versus over there, they can get it over
yeah.
there for about half the cost of over here, and almost everything's the same. The weather's the same, the, the cultural things that they can get to some things faster and some things less fast than if you live here. I mean, it's further from the beach, but it's closer to skiing. I mean, for just so you know, and yet so maybe it's the amount of money they're saving makes them happier. I'm teasing, but I'm not. So
Well,
I saw you saw
it's
the article.
interesting.
What are some of your takeaways from happiest cities in America?
It's interesting. I mean, knowing Fremont and Fremont being top of the list, and not necessarily picking on Fremont, though it will sound like I am. In terms of having lived in the Bay Area in many different cities, from Palo Alto, Mountain View, San Jose, and worked up in Pleasanton for many years, and been to San
Well,
Francisco, and then
just to
been to
interrupt, I located one of my biggest businesses in a city called Hayward, which is the neighboring city of Fremont. If you like Fremont, you're going to like Hayward, and vice versa. So I spent a lot of time in that area. Go ahead. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm like you. I'm fine. I mean, happiest city in America. I'm not. You know,
Well,
who am I to argue? But it's an interesting thing. So go ahead.
I actually have the article up in front of me here, and
Ah,
in relation to some of the things that they're looking at is emotional and physical well-being. So they rank for that. Income and employment, um, community and environment rank. So Fremont itself uh, has a total score of 74.16. It's ranked number one for emotional and physical well-being. Number two is San Jose in that particular one. Um,
this is for the whole
San,
country. This isn't a California ranking. This is the U.S. of A.
yeah, no, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, if you look at the top 10, four of them are California, one is Hawaii, Honolulu, and Pearl City, Hawaii, right? So there's the sun probably has a lot to do with it. The weather has a lot to do with it, perhaps.
Perhaps, yeah.
Um,
That's an interesting comment. So even though weather wasn't, even though days of sunshine wasn't on the list, it might actually be on the list because
yeah, and it would be interesting to see to dig into this a little bit further. This is just in the U.S. If there's any
yeah.
research or reports into happiest cities in the world, and does that prove the weather theory too? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. Uh, um, and then of course it all depends on how they're ranking. But there was an interesting
Yeah,
thing.
it's a dubious list, but that doesn't mean
Yeah,
it's wrong. It just means it's dubious. Okay.
right. So I can actually sort by the different categories here. So emotional and physical well-being. Uh, one, two, and three. one, two, three, four, is Fremont, San Jose, San Francisco, and Irvine. So that's 3 NorCal and 1 SoCal. And then the next one is Columbia. That's, yeah.
Which
So
Columbia?
that's
South
Columbia,
Carolina?
MD. No, Columbia, MD, Maryland. MD is in
Oh,
Maryland, is it?
yeah, yeah.
Sorry, I'm Irish. I still haven't
MDI,
figured out.
yeah.
I still haven't figured out American geography.
Yeah.
I should probably do that for my citizenship test. So then let's have a look at income and unemployment. So number 1 rank for income and employment, not unemployment, sorry, is Lewiston, Providence, Portland, and Burlington.
So pretty much all of Northeast.
That surprises me because the highest paid, the largest incomes are Silicon Valley incomes.
Yeah, the Bay Area incomes are outrageously high, but so are the housing prices. But yeah, but it must be measuring employment. I don't know. It may be income versus cost of living, cost of housing.
Mm,
in other words,
that's true.
what's it cost to live, which is a lot dominated by rent or housing costs. And so, if you start dividing the income by the cost of living, then some of the places that don't pay as well could possibly be actually better places, income versus cost. I mean,
right, value for money, etc. Yeah, I mean, I think this is why a lot of, especially now with remote jobs, why you see kind of quote unquote the mass exodus from California to Idaho,
anywhere else, yeah.
or Texas, right? That whole Texas flood. The community and environment rank is Honolulu, Pearl City, both in Hawaii, and then Fremont. So Fremont gets a number 1 for emotional and physical well-being. It gets an 85 on the income and employment rank, which seems a little bit off to me. So I'm not sure exactly how they're calculating that, how they're ranking that. And then it's number 3 on the community and environment. Now, the quote from the Wallet Hub. Now, this is where we kind of talk about branding and such. Is what's Wallet Hub and why are they creating a happiest cities in the US?
City in the country.
So here's a good talking point.
I mean, wait, before you go there, I mean, having been involved in lots of companies, it can be well thought out why they did this, which you're going to tell me about it in a minute. And then there's my what I call my dark sense of humor. Okay. And when I go dark on this, it's like it's a totally meaningless survey. So, they had one too many interns and they needed a project. So some guy said, hey, let's just do that. Okay. For no good reason whatsoever. Then we had one too many interns and we need to give them something. So why do they say they did it?
Well, it's interesting. So the article was written by Adam McCann, who's a Wallet Hub financial writer. This came out in February of this year, 2024. But the quote from Cassandra Happ, who is a Wallet Hub analyst, which is an interesting title. She says, money can buy happiness to a certain degree because a stable income is essential for a person's physical and mental well-being. I would agree with that. I was recently laid off. I would agree with that. However, plenty of other factors affect happiness as well, and the happiest cities combine economic security with kind communities and conditions that are conducive to low depression rates and high life satisfaction. Lot to digest there. So we've got money, but the other factors are economic security, kind communities, and low depression rates. Interestingly enough, opposite to happiest cities, I saw did you see this at the bottom of the article? They have cities where people are most depressed.
Yes. Yeah.
And the lowest is Pearl City, Honolulu, Fremont, San Jose, Irvine, which matches. If you live in Knoxville, Tennessee, you're depressed.
The odds are, is that what you're going to tell me? Yeah.
They're saying it's a three times difference.
I so unlike you, I have lived in America well, most of my life, and I've been to Knoxville, Tennessee, and
When you were there,
part when many years
yeah,
ago.
when you, but did you find yourself depressed as soon as you
And
landed?
no, I didn't. I, I this is this thing. It's like these surveys always they bother me in a way, but I was pleasant. I found the city pleasant. I found the people I worked with there, you know, excellent. And I was running an event there, and that is uh, a, a story on its own, which I guess I could give you the little lead in because it's cute. So
Do
this would have been the late 1970s, okay, a little
okay.
before your, thinking times. And it was during the Cold War between what was then the Soviet Union,
Hmm.
it's mainly Russia, and we called the people who lived in the Soviet Union Russians. Just,
Yeah.
Russia and Soviet Union were in American speak were the same thing, even if they really weren't.
Yeah.
Um, and it was during the Cold War, and there were certain cultural events that were trying to break down the
Barriers.
animosity between the peoples. And there was some art, ballet, symphony stuff.
Okay.
The Russian ballet
Okay.
came, and I was working in the sports area, and we had a tennis event that we ran every year with the Russian Tennis Federation, where we'd send over some Americans to play in Moscow and St. Petersburg, and then the next year they would come and visit us with their team, um, and we'd play some exhibitions in a couple of American cities, and we did that for a couple of years, and at that same time, time period, um, a tennis league, which is still around in a different form, but still around,
Yeah.
called World Team Tennis, was
Okay.
born, and it was born in a big dramatic way, not in a the way it operates now is a more confined area. But at this point, it was all the major players were being bought and da da da. And a couple of years into that, because I'd helped start that, we ended up with a team folding, but we didn't want the team to fold. So three of the owners of the other team, we got together and said, okay, we're gonna buy the folded team and we're gonna put it somewhere. So
Mm. Okay.
we put it in Philadelphia, okay, which
Yeah.
kind of just adds to the funniness of the story. So I hired a team of people to run it, and we got an office just a couple blocks from the gorgeous city hall there in Philadelphia. If you've never seen it, it's got a cool city hall.
Yeah.
And I think the Rocky steps are used in the
Yep.
steps are used
Hmm.
in the Rocky movie anyway. So we
Yeah.
had an office there. When my partner Larry was in Moscow negotiating the next year's exchange of players, and he calls me from Moscow and he says, "I think I've got the perfect team for us for our Philadelphia team." And I said, What? Who's that?" And he goes, the Soviet Union has agreed to send us a complete Soviet team to
Oh.
be a team inside
Hmm.
the World Team Tennis League, okay, which
Yeah.
was 16 cities. I think there was one in Canada, and everything else was in the U.S. So world was with the typical U.S. view of the world. It stops
Like
at the
the.
two beaches on each end of our yeah. So anyway, and what was the really convincing thing of that, they had two really good players that had done really well in Wimbledon the last couple of years. So there were some headliners, but the
Yeah.
cost of the entire team was going to be less than the cost of one star player. So since the three of us had
Wow.
different owners had agreed to fund this thing, saving a huge hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on the team, it was great. So now, and I was officially the president of the Philadelphia located team.
Right.
That made me suddenly the president of the Soviet Union national tennis team. So, so for a year, I served. I mean, I had another job. I had lots of other jobs, but my title, one of my titles was president of the Soviet Union national tennis team. Well, we were scheduled to. This was a 44 match league, and then the playoffs. That meant we had
And
22 home games. Okay,
so the matches were played all around the country and one in
all
Canada.
around the country.
Okay.
So, and that meant we had 22 home matches. And maybe we could play one or two matches in Philadelphia before. I mean, it's the city of brotherly love is also the city with the Liberty Bell and the Soviet Cold War. It'd be like today when we're having trouble with that same,
Yeah. Hmm.
area. It'd be like if the Russians suddenly came to LA and said, support our Russian team. But just the sellout crowds would not be not be
Ticket
very good.
sales might be
Yeah.
quite low.
So we did have in our company, we did run a lot of different tennis events. So we had lots of contacts with local people. So we took our 22 matches and played them in 22 different cities. So our poor players played the entire season on the
On the
road,
road.
on the road, the entire time. And one of the cities we played in was in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Now we're getting to the
Yes,
connection.
well,
Okay.
this is my and it was a very early. I think it may have been. Oh, was it our first? Was that our first home match? I think it was our first home match, meaning we were in charge, not the other team. So we had to sell the tickets and get the arena, and so we rented the arena from the university, and tried to promote it, radio interviews and stuff like that. And because it was the first, I think that's when I met the team. I mean, I never we played two road matches before then, and this was our first home team. Even though we didn't call it a home match, we just they didn't want to
Yeah.
they didn't want to have the Russians be the home team in Knoxville any more than they wanted them in Philadelphia. So
Right.
everything was on the road, even though officially it was ours. And so we had rented that. And when I said that I had a good time in Knoxville, um, the university was very happy to have us. They had just hired an American football coach named Johnny Majors, who was a big deal back then. And that led to another happiness story. I mean, it's got to be happy no matter what. So a couple of things the reason that I said I think I don't know why they're depressed because it's got a great university there, and college towns tend to have ups.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that happens around colleges that culturally and sports and other things that are interesting people, and so they're not a bad thing, excuse me, for a city, and it's a big school. And but I do remember we were having trouble. It's a big arena. It's like 14, 15, 16,000, and for tennis, it's still a tough sell sometimes.
Yeah.
And we didn't, and we were the Soviet team. We weren't necessarily anything anybody wanted to necessarily see. So we hired a fraternity, a bunch of guys in a fraternity to go out and distribute tickets for us. And so what we told them, because we needed a crowd, we didn't want to have an empty stadium. And we were selling tickets, but this thing's huge. So we took, and of course we had all the tickets because it was our event. Okay. So
you had
told
had
people,
lots of
we kind of stretched things a little bit. We told the fraternity guys, so tell people, and we are the Russian team, so these are the Russian tickets, and we just don't have anybody to give them to. So these are our free tickets, okay? And they were. I mean, we'd already paid for the arena, so they were free. So these are our free tickets, and we like to be there, and so we would like people to be in these seats. So if you could give these away to people who will show up, who like tennis and will show up, we'd much appreciate if you would do that. So I think the unofficial word for that is we papered the house. Just an old term for when you don't really sell out, there's lots of people there. So we were papering the house that time, and I think we had more than one fraternity doing it. So we had all these kids running around giving away tickets to all these people, and that's why I got to know more people than I should know. And and there was one more event in my I'd call it checkered career, but checkered is correct, but career is. We've had this conversation about career is probably not what you'd call me. Anyway, so to hype it up a little bit, and this happened by mistake. We were sitting in the office in Philadelphia preseason. We were talking about the first match, and we had a PR person with us whose name was Paul. I still remember her name.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm about to tell you why I remember her name. Okay. So the general manager, John, and I, and Paula were talking about, what can we do with the press and what we can talk about it. And we knew, because we did these events, these cultural events for a couple of years, that when the Soviet team arrived, they always have these little awards and banners, little triangle, little pendants, and they give them away. Okay. But
Right.
they have, I don't know what they say because I didn't read Russian, but we always knew they had them. So we thought, well, hey, wouldn't it be cool? This is John and I talking. Wouldn't it be cool if the Russians gave Johnny Majors, okay, the coach of the year, the Russian coach of, Russian foreign coach of the year award? Okay. We were laughing about that. It was in the press the next day because Paula thought it was good enough to tell the press.
Oh my gosh.
And we didn't ask the Russians about it beforehand. We just announced it. Okay. So fast forward, because there's more to the story, but we're going to skip that part. Go ahead. You have a question?
Paula she just out of the conversation, she just took it and ran with it, and media picked it up.
It may have been too much wine. I don't know. I think she thought it was real because she ran with it. Okay. Yeah, she announced it. PR, back when you had PR releases that actually worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a PR release. Okay. So at this point, we're in trouble everywhere. But Johnny Majors agrees to show up. Okay, that's the first thing.
This is happening.
Oh yeah, he's agreed to show up and get his award. Okay. The Russian Tennis Federation chairman also came the first week, flew over from Moscow with the team. So we had him, for the award. We had our own translator. They had their translator, which was by KGB. Yeah. And, that was Ivan. For the first half of the season, it was Ivan. For the second half, Boris replaced him. So those are my two KGB, Ivan and Boris, to make, whatever. So basically, we got the award, and I had to convince Boris, to let this, or Ivan's first part of the season, Ivan, and it's a long story about this. I had fun with him, but he said, sure, no problem. So we were going to do it at halftime. The World Team Tennis actually is one set matches, and they're five. Anyway, there's a halftime. And so we thought we'd do the presentation at halftime. And so I'm sitting with the Tennis Federation guy and Johnny Majors and the mayor, and it's agreed that I would walk across the court to the announcers table. We were on the other side with them and kind of help in the presentation, right? So at halftime, we're promoting our next match. And so our translator is in the locker room with our players on the radio, mid-match, selling tickets for the future matches, So our translator is tied up in the locker room during halftime. But I've got I've got Ivan right there, so I'm good. And so they announce, the announcer announces, we're going to give Johnny Majors, and the Tennis Federation guy stands up. He does not speak English. Okay. He stands up. Johnny Majors stands up. I stand up. We start walking across, and I see Ivan is just sitting there, right? And and I said, Ivan, I need you. Our translator. Come on. He goes, you're fine. You'll be fine. This was payback for not asking them. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh, I think I knew. I mean, immediately it was payback for not asking permission. Okay.
Wow.
So my the announcer hands the thing to me. I had to say, "Oh, the tennis federation guy is gonna, make the presentation." I give him the microphone, and I speak other than "niet," which means no, if you don't remember. That's
Yeah.
my total knowledge of the Russian language. Okay.
Right.
So there are Russian people. There's about 10,000, 12,000 people up there. It wasn't full, but it was close. There's got to be a lot of people who speak Russian up there,
Right.
at least a few
Hmm.
hundred. Okay. And I'm going, what am I going to say that he's saying? Because he just starts in Russian. Da, 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 and I'm thinking, oh, of course, I don't understand anything. And I'm sitting there going, what is he? What am I going to say? What am I going to say? And then he saves me. He saves me. He just keeps going on and on and on. I mean, I have no idea what he was talking about, but man, it took forever. So he finally hands me the microphone, and it's now been embarrassingly long, which
Mm.
allows me to keep happy by saying, well, that was that was wonderful. I'm just going to summarize that by saying, congratulations, Johnny. I hand the microphone to Johnny. He accepts the award, and we're out of there, right? I got saved by the long speech, and but the whole Knoxville. I mean, that's my. I mean, I all of everybody was good. Everybody was good, and that's why this rating system. You kind of wonder. I see these things. I see on any topic. This happened to be a happiness, especially happiness, especially what I call the fuzzy topics.
Mm. Right.
Happiness is a fuzzy topic, as this is why this show is
Yeah.
here. Okay, everybody
Hmm.
knows what happiness is, and no one can put their hand on it.
Define it.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think I said this in an early one. Uh, Somehow, I think I'm happier than a lot of people that I, deal with on a any kind of basis, and that I see on the street. But I don't really know that. That's my ego telling me I'm happier. I mean, people I have as friends and whatnot do tell me that I'm one of their happier people they deal with. So I have some reinforcement. But when it comes to like
Yeah.
people in Knoxville, I mean, do people get depressed on their way to Knoxville in the car? I mean, just no, I don't think. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
What did you think when you
this
were
relates
reading this
to
thing?
well, there's a couple of things that come to mind. This relates to something that we talk about, that you've mentioned in the book, as it goes to situational happiness, right?
Yeah,
Now, very often I think of situational happiness as maybe a more momentary thing. I'm out for a hike in a beautiful woodland or something like that. I'm situational happiness. But does situational happiness come into play with the environment in which I live in every day? How does that affect us on a situation? Because it puts me in that quote unquote situation on a daily basis. So does that have something to do with situational happiness?
so we call the other form of happiness the tide, just to give people
Mm-hmm.
a graphic way to think of waves and tide. You can kind of visualize, even if you're not living in a place with a tide and waves, you've seen enough movies that the perfect storm should have you totally at ease here. So yeah, uh, yeah. And does situational happiness, meaning a wonderful sunny day, which we happen to be having right now, um, brighten
Yeah.
people? I think there's some evidence that says, you know, when you've had cloudy weather and you have a sunny day, everybody feels a little happier
Yeah.
situationally.
Yeah.
And the question is, if you're in Honolulu and have sunshine most of the time and pretty nice weather all the time, is that does that lead to a higher tide? Is that
Mm. Right.
one of your yeah? And the question is, why would Knoxville be any different, or is it just that they measured this thing based on number of hours in therapy or something? I forgot all the measurements of it. Number of suicides, I remember, was one of the things they measured.
Yeah. I'm and
I I think if you're talking, it's frozen again, by the way.
Um,
It's a good thing we
yeah,
have an
it's
editor.
an interesting one, but the author of, yeah.
Go ahead.
Here's something that I would put to you as the creator author of the Happy Class. There's questions at the end of this, and the headline, the heading under Ask the Expert. So since you wrote the Happy Class, I'll do a little pop. I'm gonna
Oh,
do I'm gonna do a little pop quiz with you. So there's 5 questions. So brief answers to these 5 questions. What tips do you have for someone who is unhappy with their career?
change it.
There you go.
I mean,
Um,
yeah.
some
Then
individuals
you want just a short answer, or do you want the
well, no,
no,
yeah, expand on that.
change it is the the knee jerk easy answer. But there's two things about that. There is a part in that book where I learned from a lot of people how to how to go after major decisions. Changing
Hmm.
your career would fit into major decision. I mean, it's called the box, and I'm not going to talk about it right now, but there is a process you can go through to actually take the knee jerk miss out of major decisions and really think them through. And
Yeah.
there's sort of a process there that we can talk about in another show or something. But uh, so the other thing about change it is another part of sort of happiness, which is can be summarized in a way you only live once. That you can, and I always tease
Yeah.
that you can remember at any one time. In case you're talking to somebody like a Hindu, where they're going, wait, I got more than one of these, and your answer is, yeah, but you don't remember
Reincarnations.
the other ones. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going with this one. So and then there's part of where I also wrote in the book, um, and it's a book thing, so that's why I'm stuttering a little bit. The um, treat your life occasionally. Treat your life like you're reading a book, and you're the main character. It's your story. It's your life. It's your
Mm,
book. Okay, and
mm,
you're reading along, and this person's getting more and more unhappy with their career, not just their job, but their career. Okay, because
yeah.
they're not quite the same thing, and
Right.
you kind of turn the page, and there's going to be a new chapter. Okay, and the new chapter is going to tell you what this person decided to do. Are they going to stay with the career? Are they going to change it? What are they going to do?
Yeah.
Treat yourself like you're reading this book, and you want to enjoy the book. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
readers. If the book's no fun, you pitch it, right?
Yeah.
So, what would you tell that character to do if you could tell that character? Would you tell them, "Oh, stick it out, everything will be fine," or do you tell them, "Get off your duff and get out there and try something new"?
I don't think it's a good book to read if the character is unhappy with their career and then the next chapter continues on about how they're unhappy with their career.
Yeah, that's why I use the book thing, because I'm trying to help uh you come and there's another thing. There's this decision thing, which is totally not an emotional. This is an emotional thing, the book thing, but it's telling you, well, I'd want to read about he goes skydiving, or he changes his career, or whatever. I mean, I want to have fun with my book.
Yeah.
Don't you want to have fun with your life? And people, and it's easy to stay in routines. We all do it. We all get in routines. We get comfortable with bad situations, and we just
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
do, and we make do, and we make. It's like the frog in the boiling water. We just don't. I mean, if you
Yeah.
could tell the frog, look, at it in a minute, you're going to be dead because it's boiling. Eat, jump, you know. But
Yeah.
he's not stepping back and looking at, his circumstances, and that, you know, especially with major things like a career unhappiness, that's worth the time and effort to step out and
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
step back.
Absolutely.
And lots of people do it. You read about, or you not even read. A fun thing to do is find somebody you find interesting that you don't know, you haven't known your whole life. So you don't know their whole life because
Yeah.
they don't know yours, you don't know theirs. And then ask them about their life. And I've been pleasantly entertained and
Hmm.
sometimes even surprised at some of the stories that come out. I get together almost every summer with my high school friends. I grew up in Wisconsin, and I go back to Wisconsin, and other people come back. And there's between 10 and 20 of us every summer, and we get together. And a couple years ago, there were three of the female classmates from high school that I hadn't kept any track of, and they were there.
Yeah.
Um, and so I said, kid, and we have a one event where we all kind of get together, and I said, come an hour early, just the four of us. I want to ask you guys. So the last time I saw you was high school graduation, and then I saw you about 10 years ago. So I know what's happening now.
Yeah.
What I don't know
What
is what
happened
happened in those years in between.
What was the in
Three,
between? Yeah.
you know, you know, that all three had kicked out a spouse for three different reasons, which were interesting stories. I mean, they
Yeah.
were, they weren't any murders. Okay, wasn't that, this isn't a Netflix, make a Netflix film out of, but they had changed not just careers, they changed all kinds of things about themselves. So people do it. They don't have, I mean, we've been getting together for 10 years. None of these things ever came up.
Yeah.
So when you're sitting by yourself and you're like, oh, my this, my that, woe is me. This is the depressed part, right? Woe is me,
Yeah.
woe is me, woe is me. And I know how you can get there. The world is full of woe is me. Okay.
Yeah.
And people, it's really nice to hear other people's, and sometimes these changes, things went down when they changed, not up, and then maybe they bounce. I mean, it's not that it's a bunch of success. There's a bunch of failure built in there. And here we all are sitting there having a glass of wine, enjoying life, da 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 da, and I mean, probably the reason we were we weren't in Knoxville. I mean, it's the first thing is we're not sitting in Knoxville feeling depressed. We're somewhere in Wisconsin feeling excited. But no.
I like I like the expansion, and I think I also like the short answer of changes, and we'll talk about the box in another episode, because I think it's a really useful construct and a useful tool as such. But I want to get into the rest of these questions real quick. Here's a good one. Given that you and I are somewhat seasoned, but you would be more seasoned than I am in terms of life.
Your internet's breaking up again, so you're gonna have to repeat that.
Okay, can you hear me now? How's now? Is it working now? Okay. So the question that came up is,
they're just telling me it's my internet that's unstable, but go ahead.
So the question that has come up, the next question from the Ask the Experts series is, does an individual's happiness increase or decrease with age?
Statistically, it increases. Okay. I mean, the survey says it increases. And I think you'll see it. You'll hear a lot of times, oh, he's mellowed. You ever hear that? These
yeah.
So, which is a related topic. It's not you can be happy and still be a jerk to everybody else, but maybe if you're happier, you're a little more mellow. I don't know. But I also God built us in an interesting way that we forget or repress a lot of bad things, and we remember good things.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So that's just a natural tendency for, and again, it's a bell curve. There's some people who only remember the bad things. Okay. And they just they moved to Nashville or to Knoxville or something. I mean, it's kind of funny that poor old Knoxville did nothing wrong. And
Knoxville is getting
kicked and kicked and kicked.
We're going to be getting hate mail from Knoxville.
Our ratings in Knoxville are dropping they've all hung up on us. So the idea of the age, you also, like I told you, I get together with the high school friends, and we've been doing this almost 20 years. And one of the events is a golf event where we we play golf together, and it's got many stories with it. But one of the things that's totally evident is when we were all in high school and played golf together. I mean, we're talking competition. Like, if the other guy made a putt, it was like, God, right. Now, when we play and the other guy makes a putt, it's like, oh, great putt, because that edge of competition goes away with age. In general, I'm talking a
Yeah.
bell curve here. I'm not talking, everything, everybody or everything by any stretch. But in general, and there's still one of our guys. He knows who he is if he sees this. He still throws his clubs when he has a bad shot. And we all wait. We all say, oh, I can't use his name, which is really too bad because it's not a good, I'll make up. You can't wait, for Hans to throw his. How many holes do you think Hans will be able to do before he throws the first club? I got, we don't actually bet money. Maybe this year we should. I got $10 on not more than 5. He'll throw a club before the 5th hole. If he hears that, he probably, make a side deal with someone else to hold it until after I lose.
Well,
But anyway,
that's the nature of the hustle, right? So
yeah.
if he does it
So
right.
the competition is so much less. Even if there's money on, we don't care. Okay, this it's too late to have those kind of competitive juices,
Yeah.
and your expectations are now much more realistic. Okay, you my God, I'm not king of the world, or whatever whatever things you've you've let go in it, but I hate the word let go because it sounds like you gave up
Mm,
rather than you pitched it because it was bad for you.
yeah.
Okay, I mean, so some of these aspirations and stuff that were holding back your happiness,
Mm,
and you start to really enjoy, and people love to use the word feel grateful for, which is okay. We start to really enjoy the things that are happening and are around, whatever they are. I mean, in my case, I got
yeah.
7 grandchildren, and we've talked about I love to play, and they all live in, driving distance. It's convenient. I have a great time with them,
Yeah.
and we were talking about you going to the beach and so with your son and boogie boarding, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and so I think the older you get, you shed things that cause block happiness. How's that? And
Yeah.
so the things that are, fine. Because when I first read these surveys, I thought, oh, old people, they've got aches and pains. Just ask them. Matter of fact, don't
Sure.
ask them
Yeah. Yeah.
because your whole day will be shot on health. Okay. I mean, there's, and then I never got to do this kind of thing. And, I mean, they can whine if you let them. Okay.
Mm,
But I think more than those problems, they just are past having that feel bad. I think when you're young and you get an ache that you got to get rid of it. I mean, I got to get rid of this ache. You're older, it's like, yeah, whatever. I'm old, the ache.
yeah.
Probably. I mean, sure, I'd like to. Is it easy to get rid of? Oh, I got to do how many months of that? Nah, I'm fine.
Well,
I don't do that.
it's
Yeah.
it's funny. I was just at the doctor recently the other day, and I was talking to him about something, and there's another comedian that actually does a bit on this kind of as well. But so I explained the issue to the doctor, and the doctor said, "Yeah, welcome to 50."
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
Uh,
was like, okay, okay,
do
that's
you have another
your
glass of cold water you can throw on me? Because that one really, yeah.
yeah, your medical opinion is welcome to 50, not here, take 2 of these for a week and you'll be fine. It was welcome to 50. And I thought, geez, thanks, doc. Because also as we think it relates to age, in many ways, I don't think of myself as 50. I'm in some ways I'm still 16. In some ways I'm in my 20s. But
If you ask my
um,
wife, I 16 would be a stretch. No, I'm teasing.
I
Maybe not.
do need I do need to get going, but I real quick I want to get through the rest of
Oh,
these
okay.
these questions. Right. So, how much and how does where you live influence your happiness? And I think we've talked about that in relation to
Fremont.
Fremont in California and stuff like that. This is a very common question. Can money buy happiness?
Uh, I think there's, well, first of all, there's studies that say that are all over this, and my point is a certain minimum level does buy happiness. Okay, but at a certain level, it becomes, and even the studies that say money buys happiness, they freely admit that, the first, let's just use a number, 50,000 is really
Yeah,
helpful. Okay. And the next 50,000 isn't as helpful, but from 100 to 150 is very marginal happiness. It's not that you're not spending it, but actual happiness,
yeah,
you know. And so one of the quotes that I got when I was at business school to try to calm down the type A personalities in the crowd, that one of the professors said, just remember, how many speedboats can you water ski behind at one time? Not how many skiers can go behind one, it's how many, speedboats. And because if you're having one fun time, skiing,
yeah,
do you really need the bigger, it's water skiing, right? I mean,
yeah,
so, um, I, I think also the opposite I've seen happen a lot, which is the money and the things that money generally buys, can eat up all your time. One of my
yeah.
one of my friends, actually was his parents. Um, they had a house here in the Bay Area, and then they had a really nice house in a ski area called Deer something near Park City. I've forgotten
Okay.
behind Deer. Anyway, uh, you know, 5 stories high, 2 elevators, da da da.
Mm-hmm.
They were spending an inordinate amount of time on the house manager, whose job it was to hire and manage the staff to take care of the house that they visit for ski season and maybe once in the summer. And they had this problem. I,
Yeah,
I mean, it's like for those of us without that, we were
yeah.
spending zero bad time. I mean, they were having problems. This was not, oh, how fun it is
Mm-hmm.
to talk about the house manager. She's wonderful. No, no, no. It was like, oh, how are we going to find a second one? And da, da, da. This is the third one we've had in 3 years. And this problem and that problem. And it was like, sell the place. I can solve this problem right now. Sell it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this is why the money thing, um, and I ran a celebrity management company, and a number of the celebrities had plenty of money, and I ended up moving up here, and we had rich people as our clients, and they're not happier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw an interesting. It was funny. It was one of those box pops, man in the street kind of thing. It might have been at Mardi Gras, even. I'm not sure. It was a young guy walking around with the microphone, and he goes up to a girl, two girls, and he says, "Can money buy happiness?" And they look at each other and they say, "No, no, no, no. Money cannot buy happiness." And he says, "Really? Have you ever been on a jet ski?" And I thought it was such a very simple that I certainly could not dispute. So
Yeah, I mean, so I think that the answer is a bifurcated, you know, stretch thing. Yes, you do need a minimum amount. It's really, people talk about, oh, I was in a poor village, such and such, someplace where poor villages are all over the place, and the people were totally happy and having a wonderful time. Yeah,
yeah,
of course, On the other hand, if they had running water and electricity, they might be happier. And
yeah,
so it isn't that it's just a happier, it isn't. It doesn't buy it like you buy something in the grocery store. No, either,
yeah,
like you go and you buy apples to eat apples. And if you don't buy the apples, you have no apples. No, you have happiness without money. Okay. So, but it's an add-on to it.
yeah,
Yeah. You had one more question, or is that it?
yeah. I think No, I think we kind of covered it. It was talking about the
Okay,
economic
well, I can give you
climate
one more
of a
story
city
on the
book.
happiness thing, okay, and money. So
Yeah.
it came up in my mind when we were talking about the celebrity manager. I brought up the celebrity management company down in Los Angeles, and one of my bookkeepers came in. Her name was Hetty. And she came into the office, my office, and she said she was kind of mopey. And I said, "What's the problem, Hetty?" She said, "Well," she said, "every month," and she names this client. "Every month he spends more in his credit card bill, okay, than I make in a year." And I mean, it's, I don't know.
Mm,
Feeling depressed. I could move to Knoxville. I'm feeling depressed or whatever I'm teasing. So it was bothering her. So I said to her something I didn't know the answer to, but I was hoping. I said to her, I said, so, you know this person pretty well, and you know their friends, and then you have your friends, you and your friends, right? Is she was the client was a she? Is she and her friends happier than you and your friends are in a general sense? And she thought for a minute. She's very straightforward. Actually, she was from the Netherlands. Very
right. Good
straightforward,
question. Good question.
very straightforward. And she said, luckily for me, she said, no, we're pretty much the same. I said, that should get you. That's hopefully will get you past the fact that she's
Yeah.
spending more on her Visa card than you make in a year every month.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's like I just we can talk about capitalism some other time because that's a different issue, but it gets you past the money buys happiness, yeah, at a certain level, but and a lot of it is the happiness. See, this is the really good point to your question about money buying happiness. It's the wrong question. Focus on
Mm,
your happiness, not on the money.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Happiness buys happiness. I mean, there are so many good ways to be happy. And I already pointed out you have to have a minimum amount of money to live on. But at that, once you're past it, which is not that hard, okay,
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
country especially, it's just not that hard. So the vast majority of people, the very vast majority of people can meet that requirement. Um, so focus on, okay, now that I have enough money to actually be happy, don't waste the rest of your time trying to make a little bit more because it's going to buy some more happiness. No, it's going to buy a boat. And you know the thing that
Yeah.
most people say about boats, the two happiest days of owning a boat, the day you buy it and the day you sell it. And everything in between is a pain in the neck. And you can ask a lot of boat owners, even boat owners love that line because they go, "Oh yeah, well that's yeah, right?" Not just ex-boat owners. And so that's the money is you bring up all kinds of religions to talk about money, but yeah, money isn't evil, but it certainly can get in the way of happiness. The
Yeah.
chasing of money, okay,
The
is
pers
is
yeah,
is the
that
one that's
pursuit.
closest to the evil. Okay, it
Yeah.
causes bad
Yeah.
behavior, it causes this, and just it's wasting your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I write, but it's just spend your time in things that make you happy. Like you were asking at the very beginning of this, you asked about, changing career.
Yeah.
If you're not happy with your career, and my answer was to change it
Mm,
because, you know, at the end of at the end of your story, now that we used a book earlier, at the end of your book, okay, when they're putting on the tombstone, whatever things they should put there, which they never do, by the way, because you're not
yeah.
writing it. But if you wrote your own, it shouldn't be I stuck it out in a career I hated or that I wasn't enjoying or whatever, because
That's a terrible book.
I made 20% more than I could make in the next career or I thought I could make or whatever it is. I'm, you know, that you just don't, you know, I know there's some cultures where you sacrifice for the next generation. My kind of I wouldn't call it egotistical, but maybe narcissistic point of view in life sometimes is
Hmm.
start with yourself. Are you happy sacrificing? If this is making you the happiest, this is the path.
Yeah.
Sacrifice. Who am I to say, that that's a bad idea? If it's and for some, it's a bell curve. What makes people
Yeah.
happy? It's maybe not even bell. It may be pretty flat. I don't know. There's uh, so many different ways that people be happy, and I think there's so there's so many things working against you having a good view
Yeah.
of that. Yeah, watch a movie. It tells you,
Hmm.
oh, great sex with a good-looking guy or girl or whatever, right? I mean, food at these all amazing restaurants where, oh my God, the flavors. I just watched Netflix Drops of God, and I'd love to give you the ending of it, but there's audiences that haven't seen it, so I'm not going to.
Yeah. Spoiler
Yeah,
alert.
yeah, but it's a wine focused thing. That's not giving away anything. And they're talking
Mm.
about this fabulous, wine. I, and if that, some of the characters are very much into that. And if that's
Yeah.
bringing them happy, which by the way, I think that I enjoyed the series because there were a lot of unhappy people
Mm.
who were wine snobs. Okay.
Yeah.
And as well as happy, there's the combination was in there. It's a fiction thing, so we
Yeah.
don't have to kill it. But it's the money, I would spend more time on the question is can money get in the way of your happiness? Oh, I'll give you one more. I know you.
I
Ah,
gotta go though. I
uh,
do. I literally have.
all right,
I have to go.
last one. Friend of mine was becoming a young guy, 25 years old, smash success, about to make a fortune. He asked me, and fame, fortune and fame, both together. And he said, "You got advice?" I said, "Yeah." I said two things, and they're related. One is bad news. Whatever friends you have now, these are the last friends you know are real friends because no matter the next one could be a real friend, but you'll never know. And
Yeah.
second of all these new friends and all these new opportunities are going to get in the way of time spent with your original friends. Carve out, keep those people in your life because they are the last friends you'll ever really know are there. Money can buy a super problem. You don't even know who your friends are, and it's
Mm.
very hard. I know
Mm.
you got to go.
Mm.
Class
I
class
like that one.
dismissed.
Class dismissed.
All right. See you.